just trying to find the time to focus on that, and going to a function for the One Love Foundation this weekend as well, and just trying to fit that in. But I love your hat, by the way. Looks fantastic.
Thank you. It's cold up here. I always wear the baseball hat, but I was like, I had this one on because I was just outside doing some stuff. I'll rock this one out for a
Sure.
little bit.
That's awesome. No, you're in upstate, obviously, but are you in
Yeah.
Binghamton? Is that correct? Or
No, I'm actually just outside of Albany. I'm like an hour
oh,
north
good.
of Albany.
Yeah, yeah. I grew up in Toronto, but
Okay.
my brother went to the University of Vermont, so I know that part of the world. And I went to a boarding school for a year in Northwest Mass, but I know upstate pretty well, just from probably playing in every youth tournament, from Buffalo to the capital region over to Albany. So, we traveled right across the Finger Lakes and did each of those sort of turkey shoot and Oswego and all the way across.
Oh yeah, I was a hockey player. Yeah, you're everywhere up there. We spent a ton of time in Canada. Massachusetts always had that big sportsplex there, the
Yeah,
Marlboro Center. That was sweet.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
So what's on your mind? What do you want? I'm excited to talk anything PBLA or bootleggers. I'm right now. It's one of the most exciting things I got going on in my life, and grateful for this opportunity. It's a great league. The start of a great league anyway, and has all the makings to be something pretty exciting to watch, I think, too. And we're just, it's been fun to get started.
yeah. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, so you were one of the players that was drafted in that first draft.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I think they took Marcus with their first pick, and then they took myself and my brother with their second and third pick, which is great. And it's been fun to play with my brother again. We play together in the summers in Ontario for a team in the Major Series Lacrosse League, the Coburg Kodiak. So I don't know if you're familiar with that league, but it's great lacrosse. And I got traded there from Oakville 2 or 3 seasons ago, I want to say. The COVID pandemic kind of blurs the years, but they drafted Ben right out of junior A, and so playing together has been a blast. And he's my favorite teammate I've ever had, and getting a chance to do it again, last weekend in training camp was just a blast. It was great. It was just like we were kids again in the backyard.
Yeah, I mean, what was that feeling like for you guys to go 2-3 to a brand new professional league? That's got to be like, wow.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm just glad that I went higher as a higher pick, because older brother, right? You never want to lose that arm wrestle. And I know he was like, "What the heck, man? How did that work out?" I was like, "I don't know. Maybe they're worried that I would, I'd beat you up if you went higher." So no, it's been fantastic. We're very different players, different styles and tendencies, but he just makes everybody around him better, and including myself. I feel like he just finds me in situations that it's pretty easy to make a play, and having a guy like that on the floor with you, like for me, it's just I find it very calming. I know where he's going to be, and vice versa. And he's he's a little bigger and a little more physical, I think, than myself. And so, I joke with guys, but he's like my bouncer out there, or bodyguard. If anything ever hits the fan, that's the guy I'm pushing in there. Yeah, I wouldn't bet against them. But yeah, it's been great. Training camp last weekend was really first class. Ben and I coming into Charlotte, traveling in, majority of the team, almost all the guys are local, so it was a little different for them, I think. But we were treated like professionals, and in every sense of the word. And the facility was fantastic. Our coaching staff was prepared and chomping at the bit to get started, and that makes it easy as a player, because you just focus on competing and having fun, and getting to know all these guys that you maybe have played against growing up, but not with. And so I thought it was as good a first week of training camp as you could ask for.
Yeah, that's awesome. We were talking earlier, just about like how first class everything's been. The way the league has really set everybody up, they're flying everybody around. I'm
Totally.
super impressed with the way they've treated all you guys. It's been.
Yeah, no, it is first class. I mean, just to give you kind of an insight of what my day looked like when I got there. we started with a full physical and orthopedic exam and EKG. And, they had like 3 or 4 doctors working at a time. So no one was waiting. I was joking. My brother was talking about his NLL training camp the year before, and maybe it's because he's a rookie or whatever, but I think from start to finish, it took him like 3 hours to get through the physical and the test and all. And I think because they had 2 teams in our facility, and the league was sort of, I think, maybe concentrating resources. They just did a great job of like, more doctors than you'd think. A couple of EKG machines, a couple of orthopedic specialists, and so it was like an assembly line getting us in and out of there. And it was really first class. I mean, I'm flying in. I live in Washington D.C. and Ben's in Tampa, Florida, and just everything was thought of, and we're very impressed.
Yeah, I was talking to Todd Lloyd from Salem, and that's what he said is
Yeah,
everything in there. It was just, and he said that's actually how I got a hold of you, was he gave me your information.
yeah,
He goes, you got to talk to him. He said he's amazing. So, but then
yeah.
he said the treatment's been first class, and that he actually is really excited for the league. One thing he said is the speed of the league, like all the guys that he's playing with on his team, like how fast it is and how good everybody is. He said not that it surprised him, but like when you got out
Yeah.
on the floor, it was just like immediately you were like, oh, this is that level we're going.
Yeah. No, it's fast. I grew up playing box lacrosse in Canada. Field lacrosse is like my second sport. But when you're a kid and you're growing up in Ontario, one of the things that they do until you're in Bantam, I believe Bantam, which is like 15 years old, is you have to play both ways. You can't specialize as an offensive or defensive player. So what ends up happening is very similar to the rule book here. You're only really allowed to sub in one door and sub out one door, and it forces you to play both ways. And it doesn't mean that teams don't try to specialize guys or have them, but it makes it very difficult. And the way to think about it as a fan, I think, is if you're running back on defense and you can only go in the defensive door and come out the offensive door, you're basically having to run the entire distance of the bench to get in that door. And then that guy coming out has to run the entire distance of the bench to then again get back into play. And you're handicapping your team. You're better just to get back in the hole and play and suck it up for 30 seconds. And so I think that's a positive. I mean, I think it's a really positive rule change. And at first I wasn't sure, what I felt about it, as an offensively minded guy. But after a couple of scrimmages last weekend, I think I realized that, it was a cool opportunity for sure. And, one of the beauties of that system when you're a kid is, if someone's pounding you on defense, when you're on offense, you can get your licks in on the other side of the floor, like payback can come around. And, I think it's a way that we can help police some of that physicality in our league as an offensive player. You get a chance to play defense and give it right back. And, but it's fast. I mean, what ends up happening with it is you see a lot more, stretch passes in transition, and guys, actual 2-on-1s are being created almost every turnover, which is not as common in today's box game with the way that they change in the NLL and in major series across in other leagues. It's hard to get those 2-on-1s consistently, because the guys are getting back on defense through the bench and using that advantage. So, it's fast.
It kind of makes the way they do that, like when you have the long bench there every other quarter, it kind of
Yeah,
does that for the like whole game is kind of how
totally,
I see it. Where, like you said,
totally.
you only, instead of being able to use that advantage every other quarter, now it's just straight up, okay, this is how we change, guys. You got to be fast enough to play
Yeah,
defense, or like you said, to have possession and control the ball before you switch to really get them two on
totally.
ones and flying. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think one thing that I hope will become part of our identity as a team in Charlotte is, you have an 8-second count to clear the ball, and that's not a lot of time. And you have guys that might be getting stuck back on defense after playing, maybe playing a possession of D, playing a set on D, going down and playing offense and then getting back to, so it's their third time, their third shot clock. And, by then pretty tired. And, the way I see that is a great opportunity to trap the ball into pressure and to get up the floor and press and take chances in those first 8 seconds to see if you can create a turnover. And I think that's very different than what you see in the NLL. In that league, just because of the way they can change and how skilled a lot of those guys are, it's a dangerous play to not get back to your bench and get your D guys on the floor. I mean, it's, lacrosse IQ would tell you in that league that, if your team turns it over, you turn and you sprint, you try to beat, the guy covering, you try to beat him to your bench and, quicker than he gets to his. And in this league, I think you're going to be incentivized to actually stay on and try to double the ball early and press more like you'd see in college basketball versus the NBA. I think that's maybe a good comparison, where in college hoops, you see a lot of teams press and play, in box lacrosse terms, they play a full 200-foot game. And, I think that's going to be a big part of who we are in Charlotte. And with all of the American players that we have, like Marcus and Ryan and Dylan Maltz and some of these guys who played high-end Division I lacrosse. Yeah, remind you. All these guys, who played high-end Division I lacrosse. Not only are they great goal scorers, don't get me wrong, they're fantastic goal scorers, but they were always like very good riding players as well. And I think some of the best attackmen, are. There's a mindset, your hair's on fire when the ball hits the ground or you turn it over and you ride like a demon. And at Virginia, that was our standard and how we played. And if you didn't want to do that level of work, you weren't going to play. For either Dom or for Coach Tiffany, especially Coach Tiffany. And so I think the riding part of the press is a better way to put it. Like in basketball terms, I think you're going to see a lot of that, whether it's a 2-1-2 type press or a 1-2-2. I think a lot of teams are going to get creative on that, and that's a different element of the league. I think that'll be kind of exciting to watch.
Yeah, that's been one of the things I've been saying to a lot of guys. I'm super excited to see the strategies that guys try, like the different teams, how you guys are going
Yeah,
to try to
yeah,
use that change to your advantage.
yeah,
The strategies, I got to watch Binghamton and Syracuse, and I don't really want to give away too much of what they were doing,
yeah,
but they're very different strategies going into it too. I'm really interested to see the teams that I haven't seen, and like you said, to like how they pick their teams and how they pick their guys. A lot of guys went for that attackman who also rides, and like you said, most of
yeah,
your best attackmen. I don't care which league you watch. You watch any outdoor league, any indoor league. All of your best attackmen, they're riding their guy back. If they lose the ball and the ball hits the ground, they're not just sprinting off the floor. They're doing their
yeah.
job.
Yeah, I mean, for your listeners that have that come from a field lacrosse background, the terminology, turning a guy back, where you have to reverse the ball and throw it. That's I think if you're able to achieve, one was probably sufficient, but two, if you're able to turn a guy back twice in this league with 8 seconds, I think you're on your way to a violation and turnover in a quick restart. And I think there's gonna be a lot of opportunities to capitalize. And like I said, every team, or you said rather, every team will have creative ways to approach it. I know, I know it's top of mind for us. But yeah, it's a huge opportunity. It's part of the, you gotta use the rules that are given to you, right? You can't change. We talk about it at our camp. You either adapt or you die. So this is the rule book and this is the circumstances dealt to you. How are you gonna come up with the most effective strategies and game plans within that framework?
Yeah, like you said, it's going to be huge on that change because you were talking about it a little bit earlier with if you force the one guy to stay on and now he's 3 floor, that's,
Yeah,
I don't care if you've never been on an ice rink, it might look smaller from the up top, but it's 200 feet. And if you've now
yeah,
run sprinted 200,
yeah,
sprinted another 200, now you're 600 feet and you're stuck on defense. Yeah, I
yeah,
think I think that's going to be a very interesting thing. You see a lot of teams trying to focus on that and like that clearing pass instead of being able to hit the guy on the bench, they're working on, different
yeah,
spots for where the guys are. It was yeah,
yeah,
really cool to see. I can't wait to see the athleticism on those two teams blew me away. I mean, those
yeah.
guys were out of this world fast.
Yeah, no, I was, like Todd said about some of the guys on the floor with them. I mean, one guy that I played against a ton in college, he was Tommy Zenker, he played for Duke, big athletic midfielder, two-way player, excellent defensive midfielder. Um, I'm not sure what his height and weight would be. I'm guessing probably somewhere in the realm of like 6'3" or 6'4", 220, 230 pounds. And he just floats. That playing with him and seeing some of these guys that like on a field, you can kind of, their athleticism is impressive, but on a floor when it's only 200 feet and, for him to get up the floor and up and out and bust out in transition, it was like, wow, 8 strides for me is like 3 for him, like, yeah, like that, that was a guy who really impressed me right away. But we have like a whole army of these like faceless, hardworking kind of grinder type, two-way midfielders, NCAA, Division I kind of all-American type guys that, it's when you see them all at once in pushing, 3 guys getting up the floor, you're like, holy crap, this team can run. So and I think I hope that's sort of who we are. I think there's everyone's been making the jokes about our logo with the the race car, but it's run and gun and all gas no brakes. That's kind of I think who we're going to be, or it seems that way anyway right now.
Yeah, I mean, was that probably the most surprising thing about the training camp was really just the speed that the everybody was playing?
Yeah, I think so. I am that and how quickly some of the guys who hadn't had box experience started showing a learning curve. By the next, by session number 2, guys starting to really get it. We've tried to take a more of a, John Lancey, our head coach is, he's approaching this like a collegiate, like a collegiate coach from the perspective of weekly calls and installing systems prior to being on the floor and common terminology and language, which is the most important thing to any team that you're forming. I do it when I coach kids. We all got to speak the same language and have the same standards and expectations. And so we've been doing a weekly call for about a month now, 4 or 5 of them. And by the time we got to training camp, some of these guys are going to play together, but you've seen their faces and talked to them on the phone. And I was just impressed by how many guys, it started clicking very quickly. My expectation was the opposite. It would be like, we'd be figuring it out as we went this season. But by week 2 of training camp, it's coming together, pretty impressively.
Yeah, now are you guys having one of the scrimmages tomorrow? I know quite a few of the teams seem to be
Yeah,
scrimmaging.
we're taking a little different approach. I think we're worrying more about ourselves first, and then hopefully I think next weekend we might end up scrimmaging with Salem. Maybe a less formal of a setting. I'm not quite sure if it'll even be a full game. The facility that we've been using has multiple pads, and so they're kind of working at the same time we are at the other side of the building, and so you don't get to see a ton. But I think one of us can walk down the hallway and do some sort of controlled scrimmage. I think that's sort of the plan. But yeah, I know a couple of the teams are playing this weekend, and
I
I'm
think,
jealous.
yeah,
I'd like to play, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think a couple of them actually play in December. Our first game is January 7th. I think they kick off the season the 29th or something like that. So
yeah.
they're probably a little more, they have to be a week ahead, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, they're and like you were saying, I don't think they're really like formal scrimmages. I'm actually
Yeah.
I'm gonna run out tomorrow and check out Syracuse and Binghamton again. But from
Yeah.
my understanding, it's not a very formal scrimmage, and it's like you said, just trying to get a little bit more
Yeah.
out of their team. I don't even think they really care how they're playing. They're just trying to figure the pieces, like, okay, this guy and this guy
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of.
Every team's going to have to figure that out. And, it's, I think that group, from what I've seen with some of the teams in the North, they're some guys I played with, my brother played with in Canada and or against in Canada, and so there's kind of there's nucleuses within each of these teams that sort of have played together previously, and so I think it's more how do you slot in the other guys that you're adding to the mix, and I think Syracuse especially with that group, like I think I've seen on their roster, you got Kelly and in Donahue and a couple of other guys that you're probably trying to figure out kind of who do they gel with best from your core group, and that team's gonna be pretty good. They're gonna be fun to watch. They have a
Yeah.
little bit of everything.
Yeah, no, I that Syracuse team is going to be I think they're I mean, I haven't seen the rest of the teams, but that
Yeah,
Syracuse team I think is going to be they're yeah, they're really good. They've got a great program, and like you said, the nucleus of guys that have kind of played together, and then they brought in like you got Tommy Palasek coming in,
yeah,
and that kind of stuff is just like okay, I'm really interested to see this now. Like, what
yeah.
was your what? It, so you played at the OLN all summer, you said?
It's major series lacrosse,
Oh,
so
so
MSL.
gotcha.
So I played with Coburg in that league, and that's a fantastic league. You play for the Man Cup. Generally speaking, you got like what 32 or 30 NLL teams or something now. Well, there's 6 teams in Ontario, and there's like 8 teams or 10 teams in British Columbia. So you take the NLL talent and you cut the amount of jobs in half, and you go back and play for a lot of guys are playing for their hometowns where they played. So there's a lot of pride, and so it's high end lacrosse. It's really really hard fought lacrosse. We play on concrete in Coburg, not on carpet, and you get really
That was my question for you was because I watched a few and I don't know why I
yeah
said OLM, but the MSL games and some of them are on concrete and
yeah
that's another level of speed, like the way the ball goes off. Plus, I mean, just on your joints running on that concrete's got to be.
yeah yeah. Carpet's cool. It's fun to play, but I gotta tell you, like the concrete. I'm a fan. It's polished, so it's not like you skin your knee or anything on it. If you get hit, you actually slide, like you would on ice almost, and versus the carpet can cut you up.
I've actually heard that from so many guys, and it
Yeah,
surprises me because everybody I talk to that's played on polished concrete and has a lot of box experience seems to be
yeah,
like the guys that have played forever. Played, I mean, I'm sure you
yeah.
started box. How old were you when you first played?
Oh, probably 7, I think 6 or 7.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Is like so I'm familiar with the hockey program and the way the juniors programs run and everything up through is like a different level than other sports are. And to see that the lacrosse that you guys have been playing organized like that since 6 years
yeah,
old, that and everybody seems to love polished concrete that's done that. All the old school
yeah,
guys love that. It's and it blows my mind because I just watching it, I don't think I'd like to run on concrete.
yeah. It changes the game, but not in a bad way by any means. And I my expectation for the league was that we were probably going to play on concrete, depending on the venue. But it sounds like we got some really nice carpet, and like it'll be first class. But the concrete thing is fascinating. But the MSL is a tough league, and like you get a lot of single digit games. Over unders being below 20, um, and so it's challenging. It's a very different game. It's some teams run, but it's there's a lot of half court lacrosse. It's pretty physical. It's a little different than the way the NLL would play, just because of the rules that you play Canadian Lacrosse Association rules rather than the NLL rule book, which is a little bit it caters a little more to the American fan. There's some the rule book in the PBLA is the same, same idea, but in Canada on loose balls, for example, you can't make contact or really battle for a loose ball like you do in field lacrosse, where you can hit a guy and you got to play the ball. And so that's a real nuance, between our brand of box lacrosse and what the NLL is doing. And the face-offs are different. In the NLL, you can clamp. In PBLA, you can clamp, but in the summers in Canada, you have to pull back. It has to be one motion, away from the ball. So it makes it more of a loose ball in a group, kind of like a 5-on-5 loose ball than sort of a 1-on-1. And there's other nuances, but it's a different game, but it's a hard game for sure.
Yeah, so I think that's the one Steven Stamp did
He's
the
fantastic.
yeah. So he
Yeah, he's a
covers
good guy.
that league all the time and I did Lax Night with him was my first chance meeting him. I
Yeah,
just discovered box lacrosse a year ago. This is all new to me.
you got the fever, man. That's what my dad called it when we were little. It's like you catch it, and it never goes away. It's like it's a
It's
great game.
it's crazy. I wish I could play, but to watch you guys out there, like you said, the speed and the nuances, like the big thing for me is the defense, and I'm really interested to see how it plays here, because when you with defensive systems, if it's such an advantage getting out that door fast, and you can set up a whole system where you've got an energized guy and you bring everybody. But
Sure.
now with this style, you everybody on your team has to know how to play with everybody. Like,
Yeah,
just because
absolutely.
as you're running guys out, you can't have necessarily like you've always got a speed guy up high and your big guy down low. Well,
Totally.
no, the speed guy got stuck out for 3 shifts. Now he's got to be able to play that.
You got to be a lacrosse player. Yeah. Yeah. In every sense of the word, both ways. Um, yeah, it takes, defense. I, to be complimentary of those guys as someone who's more offensively minded, those defensive guys do a lot more than people give them credit for. And I think it's humbling for a lot of offensive guys who haven't had to do it for a while to realize, how much effort communicating early and decisively, talking through picks, how hard it is to stay in front of somebody, play the correct angles to approach them under control, all these things that these guys do to us in practice. And, we get to shoot the balls at the other end of the floor and do all of the kind of the fun stuff. And these guys are, working, especially at the collegiate level, like working hours on, the angles and their angle of approach and how they can anticipate your hips and how you're moving and all this stuff. And it's, now having to turn the switch and do that is hard. It's really hard. And that's something I'm curious about with a lot of these teams that will be playing. If you look at some of the rosters and the teams up north, especially, there are some good two-way players for sure, but there's also a lot of high-end offensive guys and that I've never seen play defense. And I'll be very curious to see what that looks like, and,
That's I had the
you know,
same thought
yeah,
watching the some of it, and you're like, these guys are fast and they're really good. But I tell you what, some of those guys, I'm pretty sure I know a couple of them that you were talking about. And you want to talk about grit? They started this like tearing it up. They had a fight in the Syracuse
yeah,
practice. It was
interesting.
it was
Who,
yeah.
do you know who scrapped?
I don't. I caught it, and I didn't really want to send much of it out because I tried to keep the training camp footage private for you guys. But I
Yeah,
did like a little 30-second clip of it, not even like a 3-second clip where you just see the glove go flying as they're getting ready to fight. And I don't know who it was. And like I said, they just ended it, shook hands, and kind of gave each other a hug, and off
that's
they
part
went.
of it.
But
Yeah, it's part of it. Yeah, it's part of the game that's a little different than maybe than a lot of American people are fans are not people, American fans would
yeah,
be used to. You see it in hockey and for us in box lacrosse, it's not something that happens, by any means every game or I think that's sort of changed over the years. But the way I see it, those referees don't get everything right. No one does. So yeah, it's an opportunity to police things yourself. And you know, as long as it's safe and guys aren't in compromised situations or vulnerable situations. I'm not by any means. I have no issue with it. It's one of those. It is a part of the game, for better or worse, whatever.
yeah,
So
it is. And like you said, I think you talked about it earlier. The guys getting a chance to play defense on the guys, and you get somebody giving you a
yeah,
shot, and it really kind of evens it out because now you're playing, but you also get to see kind of. I think it's gonna the first couple weeks of this. I think are
yeah.
gonna be like extremely interesting to watch all the teams and how they're
Well,
playing it.
yeah. I think it's interesting for some of the defensive guys who, for a while could go out there and beat the wheels off you for 30 seconds and never have to answer for anything really, frankly. I think it'll be interesting to me. There's toughness is one of those things that generally speaking, the toughest guys talk about it the least, and the guys who are fake tough want to tell you how tough they are and love talking about it. And I think it'll be interesting to see how those guys conduct themselves when that shot clock expires and you come down to the other side of the floor and we get a chance to give you the love back. And I think you'll see guys. I think it'll be good for the game because I think it'll take out some of the boneheaded stuff. And there are guys in this league that I think in past lives have they've had to fight because that's how they made a team or whatever that element brought. And it's like I think a lot of those guys probably see it as an opportunity to be like, hey, look, I can play like both ways, and like I'm not just some guy that sits in the bookend to be in between the offense and the defensive guys in the middle of the bench and waits for a chance to go out there and police something. It's like you're part of this. There's only 18 runners, right? So you have to. And if everyone's playing both ways and running in the leagues as fast as it is, you're gonna need all 18 guys to contribute. So I think it's an opportunity. Like I think a lot of those guys must be excited because of that format, that rule, to prove they can be given an opportunity to prove that they can do more than just drop their gloves and swing.
Yeah, I think that's gonna go for like you said that way too, but I also think it's gonna go like a lot of guys like you who guys think of as offensive players are gonna get to see how well rounded some of these guys are. And
Yeah,
and and I think not only that though, I think like you the offensive players that can play defense is such a it's really underrated in the NLL because everybody just takes off and they swap. Whereas in this league, it's going to be necessary. You're
yeah,
not going to be able to just hide somebody who can go out, make a shot or two, and lazily jogs off the floor. But because he
yeah,
gets 3 goals a game, everybody just kind of deals with it, and you're not going to have those kind of
yeah.
you can't
No,
hide
there's a
those
lot
kind
of
of
guys.
guys.
There's a lot of guys who made careers, got their foot in the door to make a career, starting as a defensive player and working their way offensive. I mean, one of my favorite teammates that I had, um, we won a national championship together. He's just a great guy. Dane Smith, who plays in Buffalo. Dane played his first couple of seasons in the NLL as a transition player at the back door, and worked his way up to the offensive side of the ball. And he's one of the best players on the planet. And that's how he cut his teeth. I got his opportunity. And one of my favorite players to watch growing up, and I was a ball boy at his camps for years, is Dan Dawson. And Dan Dawson was drafted as a defensive player that just continued to work on his game, and then ultimately has become one of the best playmaking offensive players in the world, period. And for forever, he's been around forever. And so, I'm sure there'll be other guys like that will make names for themselves being able to play both ways.
Yeah, I think that like you were talking about the lacrosse IQ. So like Dane Smith, one of his yes, he's extremely talented and physical, but like the having the IQ on when you move up to offense, like Jalen Rogers when they move him up to offense, it's a
Yeah,
different,
yeah,
they have that IQ and then the hands as they develop it and they get better and better is where you really see. And I think that's why they become those all-stars because they understand the defense, they understand what they're
yeah.
trying to do, and they just look at it differently than other
Yeah, no,
guys.
our team has really tried to stay away from the idea of offense and defensive players. Kind of break that. We're all transition players. It's kind of how we're approaching it. But I think for us, it might end up being something more like you take two groups of 8 guys, kind of thing, or a group of 8 and a group of 9 that are a little different. You match and you sort of piece together complementary skill sets, and you almost run them like hockey lines with a couple of guys that every shift 3 guys are taking a breather like rovers. And
That had me wondering when they did this is if it was going to be a hockey style where you kind of
yeah,
got 2 guys always on, and that seems to make sense to me. And that's really like you said, if your
yeah,
team, that's I was very curious how many teams are going to do that, and I know one team I saw is not thinking that way at all, and the other one is, and it's just very interesting. I can't wait.
yeah. No, no, yeah, I'll be curious. I mean, I think everyone's going to play until they get punched in the mouth. So, maybe that's not the right way to approach it. But if I was calling the shots on our team and was coaching, um, that's probably how I would do it. I think the first thing you do is you try to balance skill sets between having some offensive players, some defensive players, and you want to be, put together 2 or 3 balanced lines. Um, but then it's things like making sure you have enough left-handed, right-handed guys on each group, and you're not throwing 4 right-handed offensive players out there with one guy.
Covering
It's
the other
tough.
side, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And so I think certain teams will probably have an idea today of what that looks like. But we in our scrimmage, I mean, we had an idea of how we wanted to clear and how we wanted to sub. And by the end of it, we kind of realized that a lot of the stuff we sort of not predetermined but thought ahead of time, anticipated ahead of time, um, just didn't work the way as effectively as we thought it did. And so we adjusted, and I think that's going to happen with everybody for sure.
Yeah, no, Mike Tyson's saying, everybody's got to play until
Yeah,
you get punched in the mouth.
totally.
It's going to be a high pressure league. It seems to be the speed going up through.
Yeah, like I'll be curious how many teams elect to take power plays. I mean, statistically speaking, um,
Yeah, that's a huge thing that nobody's like. I've only heard a couple people talk about that. That's official. They're going to get to choose power
Yeah,
play or penalty
that's
shot.
what I was under the impression of. Yeah, and so if that's the case, I mean, I don't know what the percentage of penalty, penalty shot shooters would be, but this is probably where those analytic guys would have a heyday. But I'd like to think that if you gave me 10 breakaways, I could score on at least 8 of them. That's if not all. I think it might be a little disingenuous to say, yeah, I'll score on all of them. But like seriously, against a really good goalie, I'd hope that one-on-one, the advantage shooter most of the time. Yeah, I'd like to think that 8 out of 10 of them are going. And um, you know, you want a power play unit to be 80% too. That would be wonderful. But in reality,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen that way, right?
Well, not to mention
Um,
that's what you're working for is to get that guy isolated with the goalie. The only thing you're missing is the pass across to get the goalie
totally.
stepping. So it's
Yeah.
like, are you going to get this this nice of an opportunity where
Yeah.
you've got a shooter with time? And yes, even if you're 80% on penalty shots, if a power play unit is 500, everybody's like, that's a solid
Exactly.
power play
Yeah,
unit.
that's kind of what I was getting at. Exactly. Like if you get 3 power plays in a night and you score in 2 of them, people are like ecstatic, right? So yeah, it's that's an interest. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting thing to watch too. I mean, um, I don't know what the average penalties would be in a NLL game or whatever. Let's say though that was like, let's say it was somewhere in the realm of like 4 to 6 penalties a game, and you know, let's say for easy math it was 5, right? And um, you know, that's like 4 goals a game, from one-on-ones with goalies that you're adding to the scoreboard. I mean, these are gonna be high scoring games, generally speaking, if all other variables remain the same. Um, and teams are electing to do power, breakaways instead of power plays, and you're clicking 80%. I mean, yeah, you're adding, to your total, 3, 4, or 5 goals a game easy, that maybe you wouldn't have, normally. I mean, I was watching a couple of rerun games today. I was surprised at how some of the NLL teams struggled on the power play last night, just early in the season, right? And good goaltending too, but like teams just weren't necessarily totally in sync. Thought that was interesting to watch.
Yeah, it was kind of really, like you said, very funny with a couple of the teams. The passes weren't there. They just weren't
Yeah,
sinking, like a little nervousness. And even in
yeah,
the game last night, the first quarter was like, it was a little touch and go, and then everybody kind of
yeah,
settled in, and it was. I tell you, that
totally.
Vegas team, I'm pretty excited about. But
Yeah, what a cool place to play.
yeah,
I don't know if you've ever been out there, but it's a cool
never.
town. Yeah, it's a cool town.
Now you guys are actually playing in Charlotte in
Yeah.
North Carolina, right? So what is that like? Have you guys got any idea like what you're doing as far as in the community? You guys got like little kids programs they're hooking up with, or
Well, I know that next weekend in particular, there's like a 4-hour box youth clinic prior to our practice. I think it's loosely associated. I think it's like a local club program, but they're going to stick around. We'll practice right after. Um, I was pushing. Everybody wants to play in sold out games and in front of big crowds. It's fun. Makes what you're doing feel important and like it matters. And so I was sort of my thought was like, hey, wear a youth jersey to the game. I don't know if the guys in the league ticket sales will love me for saying this, but we'll let you in for free if you're wearing a jersey. To your point, I think engagement with those kids is really how you drive attendance at games. Our home games, I believe, are going to be Sundays at like 1 p.m., which is totally family friendly. And I think a lot of youth sports, a lot of lacrosse is on Saturdays. Um, so I'm hopeful that maybe we can attract some fans that way and just be the alternative day of the week. But
I just think
yeah,
I think it's amazing
yeah,
they put a team down there. I mean, just to get the exposure. I mean, I live 2 hours away
it's
from
a great it's a great lacrosse town. I mean,
Yeah,
if you look at the people that live there today and guys that like not even old, like maybe a little too old to play in this league or kind of have hung them up, but like I can think of probably 5 or 6 guys that were like, all first team All American type players that are living in Charlotte today, that aren't playing with us, that are sort of late 30s. but the network and the player pool there is actually pretty impressive. It's a great. I work in commercial real estate, and that's what I do Monday through Friday, and um, the apartment market and in the Carolinas is insane, but in Charlotte in particular, the amount of development and rent growth and people moving there, and it's become a real sort of like Wall Street South in a lot of ways. And my girlfriend does investment banking, and her team is split between New York City and Charlotte, and it's a real financial hub, and it's a great place to live. And I'm excited. It's a great place to play too, and easy place to get in and out of flight wise. We got I'm biased, but I think we probably have the best venue in the league in the Bojangles Coliseum. It's a 8,600 seat, state of the art, AHL hockey rink, right downtown. It's primo. So I think it's gonna be a place that people look forward to coming in. And hopefully they'll look forward to playing us. But it's a place that people are excited about going to on weekend. There's a lot worse places than Charlotte, North Carolina, when things are really cold up north. So
That's what I was just thinking is, especially all the up north guys. I heard from a couple of the guys, it really wouldn't have been so bad to get picked by one of those teams down there, get a little warm
yeah,
up and
yeah,
but yeah, what I was saying is that box lacrosse is such a hidden gem. It's like such a weird, like it doesn't. I'm 2 hours away from the center of New York where it's huge, and I'd never heard of box lacrosse till a year ago.
yeah. No, it's unfortunately it's one of the best kept secrets, and us Canadians up north have been maybe keep hiding it on purpose, because I really do think it's the best way to develop talent that's transferable to the field game. It's if you think about it as a youth player, you miss a pass and field across, the ball rolls out of bounds, the rep's over. Indoors it hits the boards, there's a rebound, it stays in play. I'd like to argue probably in a box lacrosse practice versus the field lacrosse practice, you get like 5 times the touches indoors, and the continuous play, and it's much more fan friendly. And it's lacrosse. For those that are hoping to see lacrosse in the Olympics one day, I think this brand of lacrosse is easier to replicate across the world. You'd require less players. You can play indoors. You can
It looks like a hockey game too for most people, so it's like
yeah,
simpler to understand. There's no, especially, I mean,
totally.
now they've got the shot clock in field, but like trying to
Yeah.
explain to people the old box rule of, oh, you got to step in, then 10 seconds out, and yeah, it's I think like you said, going to the Olympic style, this just is the most fan friendly way everybody's gonna see it, and it's like,
Yeah, it's I'm fighting a cold here, so I apologize.
no, you're good.
It's one of those this week I got crushed by it. It was not COVID, thank God, but just like a head cold. Feel like it's going around, but yeah, the big thing with box lacrosse too is if you look at Finland, Israel, the Czech Republic, some of these sort of up and coming, developing, sort of new, world lacrosse not powers, but like,
Yeah,
contenders in the sort of secondary division. They've all prioritized box lacrosse as an area of growth for them. And, I think, they've had more success doing that than the nations that have focused on field lacrosse. Their field lacrosse teams are benefiting from it too. It's interesting, and there's a great book called Talent Code, and what the book is about is essentially figuring out how people become good at things, and how to like the science behind practice really. And they did like a autopsy on Einstein when he passed away, and you'd think the guy's brain was like way bigger than any of our pretty average brain size, but one thing that was really interesting was he had like off the charts levels of myelin. And the way I understand myelin is it's like a sheath that wraps around neurons, and it's sort of the more myelin you have, or the better. That you think of it like an electric cable. You sheath it in rubber to help the connection be quicker and more pure and unobstructed. It's like from thought to actual practice, muscle memory. It's sort of how the brain learns new skills. And so they started focusing on myelin and looking at musicians and artists and athletes and people that were really successful in whatever they did, and how do they develop this stuff? Like, how do you get more of it, rather? And it's like this idea of deep practice. And one of the chapters of the book I love, long way of getting to it, but that I love is about futsal in Brazil. And, these guys play, soccer with sort of a waterlogged heavy ball. They're playing in a courtyard. There's generally too many players for the size of the surface they're playing on. And it sounds a lot like box lacrosse. And right. And they talk about these guys who then make the jump to Europe and join academies, and they've never played on a full-size pitch before. The game feels slow to them. They have all this time and room and space, and it's a lot like box to field. And the other thing I think is interesting about it is, if you think about how soccer was traditionally played with, putting the ball to space and, for a teammate and getting a guy out in front and, sort of gives and goes to create separation and get around guys. You watch these guys, these soccer players that have these futsal backgrounds. I mean, they do things with their feet, with the ball, to beat the player, one-on-one with a move, rather than having to give up the ball. And, they're good in tight spaces. And it's a lot like box lacrosse guys, who are able to create, shot opportunities and angles and get their hands free with not a lot of space. So I think for that reason, it's a great metaphor. And, that's why I'm a big believer in box lacrosse. And I think it's important for youth players to play it. But yeah, that's, that important takeaway, I think, is this is really the best way to develop talent, I think.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody about it, and like you said, there's so many little things as to why. But one of the big reasons I think is the rebound off the front of the goalie.
Yeah,
Having that tight where everybody's fighting for the ball,
totally.
it really builds a lot of, learning those little intricacies. How do you get the ball on your stick? How do you actually beat the guy? Because like
Yeah,
we teach these kids how to like scoop, and you don't really ever teach them how to like just what everybody does, which is you get in the pile, try to
yeah,
separate yourself between the pile and get the ball on the other side of your foot and go. And how
yeah.
many
No,
guys rake it back, and then every coach is like, "Don't rake." It's like 90% of the time in the game, you're pulling it away from people to.
yeah. At the youth level, especially, like 95% of the game is played below the waist with the
Yeah.
ball on the ground. Right, they drop the ball, and so ground balls are incredibly important. And rebounds and boards and ricochets and all these sorts of things, I think, make you better, better at loose balls. And at the end, the name of the game is, can you pick the thing up off the ground? That's really it. And I don't really care how it gets there, just make sure it gets there, kind of thing. And you're right. I mean, the guys with the hockey backgrounds especially get this because they're used to playing, in that position, their hands down, the ball at their feet, picking it up. But it's a different element of the sport that you don't see as much in field lacrosse. You don't get a lot of those rebound fight type opportunities. And by the way, the guys who are really good at it, they really stand out outdoors. I think one of the best players I've ever seen do it is Jay Carlson, who plays with the Whipsnakes in the PLL. People are like, they're garbage goals. It's like I totally disagree. These are like anticipation and like awareness goals. They're, there's only like one or two guys on a team that are doing this for some reason. But you kind of always know who they are, sort of thing, and it's like not by accident. And so in the indoor game, like if you can pick that thing up before a goalie's able to, it's so hard to score. So you pick that thing up in front of the net before the goalie can get set, and you can get the shot off. I mean, it's a different element. You don't see that as much in field lacrosse.
No, Ty Hill, I don't know if you know him at all, but the way he strings his sticks, he was explaining it to me once. It's based on how he picks the ball up when he's, ground balls. And
Yeah,
it's something I never even would have considered with
yeah,
it, but he uses a special like drop string to
yeah.
so it scoops better. And he was like explaining to me like, and he's like, and these are the same heads, but this one's off by like a whatever. And he's like, I can feel it when I pick it up. I had to drop the string this much farther. And yeah,
Interesting.
those little
Yeah.
intricacies in the way guys learn and stuff is really cool. Now, what are you guys expecting as a team for Charlotte? Are you guys hoping to basically just have a good showing? Or are you guys really thinking you're going to make a run at the playoffs championships, which is what I would hope to.
Yeah, our goal is to win. I mean, that's why we do this. You give up a lot of time. You give up a lot of weekends, and it's a commitment. And, at the end of the day, like, we had 35 guys at camp last weekend that are 35 alpha male, competitor, ultimate competitor, type A guys. And, nobody wants to do this just to have, it's really fun, sure. But no one's doing this for,
It's a
to
lot more
just get
fun when
away
you
from,
win. Yeah.
yeah. No one's doing it to get away, for like a night. And it's you're doing this to play to win. And so, yeah, I think our expectations are, we'd like to, we'd like to get better every week. We'd like to, create sort of an identity, hopefully earlier than later, and, set up a standard and a process, and just focus on being the best version of our team that we can be. And all those things are the recipe to winning, right? Without having used the W word. And, I think it'd be disingenuous to tell you that we weren't confident, or, I think if you look at our roster, I'd be hard pressed. I'd love to know if you think there's a team that has a better top 6 offensive group than we do. And I saw it last weekend, and,
and that would have been
yeah,
a better question. I guess I should have said, is more not what you're expecting from your team, but what do you expect the team identity to be? Like, are you guys running gunning? You guys are going to be super
yeah,
athletic?
I would tell you, like I said, I'm not sure if there's somebody that has a team that has a better top 6 than we do on offense. But I also don't know if there's a team that is more athletic than we are as a team. If you look at the group of guys that we have, like, Reese Eddy, fantastic LSM in the PLL. You look at a guy like, Tommy Zenker, who's just a freak, freak of nature. We have some sort of smaller, water bug type running guys that I think will impress you. But yeah, I think, we probably won't be and I don't think it's who we're trying to be anyway. Your typical box lacrosse team, roster makeup that you might see with, 8 really good offensive players, 8 sort of, big, defensive bangers on the back door that'll beat you up, and then a couple of sort of transition guys in between. No, I think it's going to be like a team of, like, probably 14 really athletic transition players, and, 4 maybe not as athletic. I'm grouping myself in this. Maybe not as athletic, full 200-foot players, but high end offensive players that can score goals and make plays. And I think that's who we're going to be. And, that's not going to work for every team. I get that. But I think that's going to work for us. And lastly, I think goaltending is incredibly important in this league. And we got a great guy in Conlon. He's played the highest levels. He's, totally gets it. It's like another coach on the floor. I think he's going to impress a lot of folks. And he's from Ottawa originally. Played in Peterborough for his junior, and actually he played junior in Ottawa and then senior in Peterborough. And so you play for the Peterborough Lakers, you're pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, I do. Even not being that big of a fan, I know who the Peterborough. I've only
yeah,
been following
totally.
it for a year, and I know who the Peterborough Lakers are.
Yeah, so that's I think maybe it's nice to be the unknown commodity coming out of the South in a league that has obviously got a really big northern flair and upstate New York presence. It's great. They're going to be who they are. But yeah, I think the moniker, the bootlegger moniker, in some ways is kind of perfect. That run and gun idea. I think that's what you'll see from us.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I think that's going to make the most exciting version of lacrosse. If all the
Yeah,
teams kind of play that, I think this league will really blow it up. I like how they've really focused on the athletic transition guys. You're getting a lot of younger guys mixed with the older guys, and I think this year is going to be a huge eye-opening experience for some of these guys that you think are D transition guys. Because I know a handful of guys that play defense,
yeah,
and it's not because they're not talented offensively, it's because you have more of those, like you said, less athletic guys that can get away with just playing offense. And then this league is going to be built up of those kind of studs and
sure.
kind of scoring goals. It should be real.
That's gonna be the thing. It's the tension. If there's a tension here, I think there will be a tension between teams that are unwilling to adapt to a differentiated playbook and are set, and people that are set in their ways, offensive players that just do not want to buy into working, getting back on defense and participating in that function of the game. And you're going to have teams that play a different brand of lacrosse that is, look, right, wrong, whatever. This is the league you're in, man. This is the cards you're dealt. This is the playbook. This is the rule book that you're given with changing. And so you want to be selfish and try to change on the way back and give up a 4-on-3 or I think that's the other thing too. I think you'll see in this league a lot more unsettled situations that are true odd man, but not necessarily like a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-2. I think you'll see a lot of 4-on-3s. I think you'll see a lot of 5-on-4s for the first 6 seconds for teams that are, so that'll be a different element. I think people in hockey, for example, are really, because of the way, it's hard to possess in hockey versus lacrosse thing, but a 2-on-1 with a trailer, you're generally trying to hit the second guy in the 2-on-1 rather than maybe wheeling out and waiting for that third guy who's got a cleaner look and more time and kind of, can see both sides of the floor. I think you'll see a lot of 3-on-2 in this league, and there'll be a guy getting back in the hole and a fourth offensive player. And, the guy will kind of wheel it out for a second. And then all of a sudden you'll have a delayed 4-on-3 that's occurring, out of that. And I think that's sort of going to, and then, shot in a goal, or maybe it's like a clean save and, an offensive player from the other team is, didn't get back in the hole, is now busting down the floor on a 1-on-1, or 1-on-0. I think that's sort of what the PBLA is going to look like. I've always been a big fan of the transition game. I like to play fast. I mean, I played at the University of Virginia. I'm not sure anyone plays faster than we do. I know that no one plays faster than we do. And we've even had to slow it down in recent years. And so I've always, that style of play, it speaks to me. It excites me. I think it's the best version of lacrosse. I watched 2 NLL games today. And what I noticed was I guess I didn't realize how good these defenders are at killing breaks, coming off the bench and getting across the floor and buying themselves time. Like, I didn't really realize that how good teams were at being able to stop the break. And because we're not able to change that way in this league, I think you're going to, I think it's just going to create a ton more actual registered shots in unsettled situations. You see a lot of teams pull it out and value the possession in that league because you have to, because the players are so good, they'll make you pay. I don't think that in this league that we're forming here, you'll be incentivized to do that at all. I think you're actually, it's probably statistically, you're probably better to pull the trigger and shoot in those unsettled situations. So I think that's gonna be fun for fans to watch.
I mute myself sometimes because I'm a little
No
dumb,
worries.
but I no, a lot of the guys I was talking to said that is that they seem as they go down, you're really kind of trying to even maybe take a low shot, get a quick rebound because
Sure.
of the way you want to try to get your guys transferred. So you're almost better off, like you said, on that odd man rush, firing it, getting your 1 or 2
Yeah.
guys to change. It's going to be super exciting. And actually, one thing that Todd told me is that you were very well organized, and I should get in touch with you every week for updates. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah. I try to be.
He said that. He said, because I said to him, I said, what I want to do though is try to get a hold of like somebody that if you guys just send me a text of basically what you guys are doing, like after, Monday or Tuesday, I'm going to try to do a
Sure.
weekly show where we update everybody
Oh,
on
good
the,
for you. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah.
yeah.
No,
So
I'm happy to talk about this at any time. This is one of the most exciting things in my life right now. It's what I love doing most. I'm grateful for another chance to play with my brother in a league that is taking it seriously and putting great players on the floor. It's funny. I don't have any. I don't know if there's really anybody that I've seen on a roster that I have a personal issue with. It's actually the opposite. Like, I have a lot of friends playing on different teams because the draft was such that they had to, build rosters from scratch, right? So, I probably have like 6 or 7 friends on Salem. I probably got, 6 or 7 buddies on the Hampton team. I probably know 4 or 5 guys that are playing in Trenton.
yeah,
So there's a lot of familiarity. I'm sure rivalries will get created soon enough. Um, but it's this league, I think, is worth it's worth taking a shot on. And I really hope that every team has incredible success, because there's just too many good players in the planet that for in my situation, I think for work commitments, for travel, for families, whatever, just can't commit to doing this entirely full time. Um, but based on an East Coast travel schedule and a league that's investing in players and in flights and all that stuff, I mean, you can be a weekend warrior, and there's still people that want to watch that because it's a great product. And yeah, like as much as I can contribute to helping build a brand for the league, and talk about what we're doing to get people as excited as I am, I'm willing to do it. And yeah, it's going to be great. Like I hadn't had that butterfly feeling in my stomach of excitement for training camp like that in a long time. And it's it's great to have it back. But I also kind of have that feeling about like I think it's the 29th is that first game. Like, you better believe, like, I'm gonna have we have a couple days off, so I'll probably get a couple beers, and it'll be Christmas break, so I'll be with my brother, and we'll probably like have the game on TV watching together, and because we want to see what it looks like. That's the other thing. The play, we're not necessarily sure exactly what this thing's going to look like yet. There's great players. You got good coaches, like really good coaches. A rule book that is transition and excitement oriented. Like, it sounds like a great recipe, right? It's like, all right, show me what the product looks like. That's what I'm trying to temper that sort of that like anticipation. So
I think it's going to be good. I think that them having lacrosse TV is going to be huge, where they get to stream the games. I
yeah,
think.
have you used that service before? I know I have. It's great.
Yeah, the being able to just and the YouTube stuff afterwards, where they have all the breakdowns of all their things too,
I feel like
is
they're a pretty collaborative group at Lacrosse TV, or the former LSN. And like, I got to think that if you reached out to them, like, there's got to be a way for you guys to work together in some capacity, or like just pool the resources. I mean, it's, you think about, if you more minds, right, more ideas, and you're able to kind of take on bigger projects, and they probably love to have somebody working with them on a week-to-week basis, because they're gonna be doing the same thing, right? There's gonna be a couple people covering this for sure.
I would hope so. I hope I'm not, the only one, and I hope, like I said, they're doing it. I really wish that we could find a way to stream all the games. I think getting the game stream for the kids, because the big thing, like you said, is growing these leagues. Like, ev- every one of you guys that coaches kids and works in a youth program, that's
Yeah.
where you really see. And these they picked a lot of
I,
towns that are based
I
around
you
that.
know, I have, so don't quote me on this, like as if I have a crystal ball or someone's told it to me. They haven't, but I would be very surprised if by end of December, there isn't, we don't find out there isn't individual streams for games. I got to think that they're doing that.
I would imagine.
Yeah, just, I've had a chance to, that's the other thing. I don't know how many leagues where the owner and primary investor in the league is gives out his cell phone number to the players, and we can call them. I mean, I probably had a half a dozen conversations with Carmen Kesner, who is really the the owner and sort of the equity behind starting this whole project. And even yesterday, I was connected with Steve Donner. If I'm correct, I think is sort of title of CEO of the league, and texting those guys directly and talking to those guys on the phone directly. It's great access, and it's player first, right? And there was a lot of question marks that guys had about travel or playing in a different market, or if you're from Charlotte, what if you get drafted to Syracuse? How's that going to work? And these guys have, like, every single challenge that we've had. They've handled it for us. And this last week, this announcement with the Lacrosse TV is just another example. Like, they're all in. They're not dummies. These guys. This is real money.
Yeah,
And risk.
the amount of money just in workers' comp insurance to have the teams in New York State's like anybody who's
Yeah,
ever tried to operate any kind of business or anything, like when you see what these guys are doing and the
yeah,
way, like you said, they're flying guys around. You've got guys that they to make the right pieces fit on the right teams. They're flying
totally.
guys to where they belong. And
Yeah.
yeah, this league seems awesome. Like I said, I really every player I've talked to has said, just like you said, they treat us like gold. They go out of their way to make sure
I'm
we're
happy the
happy.
other guys. I think we're all appreciative. I'm happy the other guys are acknowledging it because at the end of the day, you need players to make a league, right? Sure, like you can't have a league without great players. I get that, but you know, as players, it's important that you have the right foundation set, the right people that they're trying to build something really cool for you to be a part of. And there's something to be said about that too. I mean, otherwise this is just a men's league,
Yeah.
right? And that's great. There's I've played in them and it's a lot of fun, but it's not the same. And that's why I'm personally very grateful to the brain trust that has kind of built this thing out. And every single variable and factor that they could think of, believe me, they've thought of it. Even down to this Jim Thorpe All-American team, who
What a
you
yeah.
know
What a genius
I thought
idea
was a
though.
little, yeah, excuse me, I thought it was a little peculiar at first, but I love the idea of a team that is going to travel and play on a couple of different reservations. Um, it's incredibly important to me because those are communities that absolutely love this sport. It's theirs. They shared it with us, and it's the birthplace of the game. Um, I think the home opener for or the league opener is going to be played at the Iroquois Lacrosse Arena in Six Nations, Ontario, um, which is a really cool place to play. One of my favorite places to play. It's a great surface, great facility. Like that's awesome, and they'll probably pack the house in there.
Oh
And
yeah.
a lot of players in that team are familiar names to that community, and so even that, like I said, even that element of it, like so thoughtful. Um,
Yeah.
the NLL's been doing preseason games and training camps on reservations for years and always had great turnouts. I mean, the one most recently in Akwesasne was like a pretty fantastic game. It's where the players want to play. It's I was fortunate in college to play in Charlottesville, and we would sell out generally almost every home game. The big ACC games have 10,000 people there, standing room only. I'd much rather play that than in an NFL stadium with 10,000 people, and I think a lot of people feel that way too, right? So, I'm pumped to go up to Elmira, New York, and play in that rink. Smaller rink, but hopefully, really kind of fun environment.
What a
Same with Salem.
Yeah, what a beautiful that Elmira setup is too for field
Totally.
lacrosse. Oh my goodness, I've seen a bunch of guys with pictures from that from the training camp, and that's another one. I see most of the lacrosse TV is going to stream from there, and I understand why. I think it's just because it's set up so perfect to stream.
Yeah.
But like 8 of the 12 games are going to be in Elmira.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. But I looked at the schedule for that. I don't know if
We
those
gotta look at
guys.
that later today. Yeah.
Yeah, I checked it out. We actually I talked with me and Paul uh Necker. He does the Utica Yeti team. We're doing Yeti talks on Wednesdays where we try to talk about the league. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, next week maybe we should definitely have you on.
You let me know. I'm like I said, I love talking about this stuff. It's the best thing in my life right now. I just love this game, and any opportunity I get a chance to talk about it, and with people like you, frankly, that really love it too, and we can nerd out together. And I'm still a lax rat to this day, and got a couple of sticks I need to string today for some teammates. But like I can't think of a better way to spend a Saturday afternoon, frankly. So
Yeah.
gonna put on a couple of rerun games, and I'm a simple guy. I don't need much.
No, that's I love now that ESPN Plus has that, and that's why I really want all these games to be streamed because
Yeah,
I would watch every one of these games. There's not a chance
yeah,
I would sit here while I'm making this, and yeah,
totally.
these games are amazing.
Well, maybe next week we should see if we can get my brother on too. He's a hoot. He's a funny guy.
Well, why
Learn.
don't we can I'll set up show for the bootleggers
Yeah,
thing. Let me
yeah,
we'll do like a bootleggers night. We'll pick one night of the week.
yeah. That would be cool.
You
Yeah,
guys
that'd be
can,
really cool.
yeah. Yeah, I'm teaching myself how to do this. It seems to be going all right. So,
No, I think it's really. I think it's awesome. I'm glad you're doing it. And what I would tell you is, um, the YouTube is a great tool. But like the Instagram Reels is, I think, kind of a fun opportunity too.
yeah.
And like I know some people do these like kind of Instagram lives where multiple people can like call in. Like that might be a kind of a fun little segment for you. And I think you can like post those as a so you do it, and at the end of the post, you can like post on your account.
All right.
So and so you might want to do like Instagram lives, like the guys are at the hotel, put a couple of guys on the same team on Instagram live and do like a rapid fire. It might be a cool idea for a segment, and like those things go viral because it's so easy just to share, a
Oh,
photo
yeah.
on reel. That might be an idea for you.
I'll have to check it out. Yeah, see, I didn't know any of this. I'm
Yeah,
an old guy.
and I know,
My
like
son taught me that how to do any
yeah,
of
like
this.
the on your Instagram account, you can do those highlights too, which kind of sit like the circles below your name
Yeah,
above
I
your
just
photos.
figured those out the other day.
Yeah. Like you could create like a highlight for each team that you're kind of covering,
Yeah.
and then it archives them almost, and you can watch them in succession. Like that, that might like,
Yeah.
you don't need like, it's funny, like these laptops, right? Obviously in the internet, like you can basically run like a blogging business out of it. But the social media tools are like, and I only know like the bare minimum of them, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's definitely that's why I'm teaching myself this. I think like you're saying, this is the future. Right? This is how everybody's gonna talk,
Yeah.
and in that short form, I should get on the Instagram. But no, I gotta get this one processed. I'm heading out to Syracuse tomorrow. Let's
Yeah.
touch
Good man.
base. We'll touch base next week. And what's your brother's schedule like and your schedule like? So your real estate, you can.
Yeah, we're wide open. So it would be fun to get the French brothers on together. He knows how to push my buttons, but Ben's very smart, and he really gets the game, and he's got good perspective too.
Sweet. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, we'll set it up. We'll do like a bootleggers.
Yeah.
We'll touch base like one day a week, and we do like a half hour, an hour where we sit here. Because like if I was debating if you called me like 5 minutes later, I almost had it figured out to go live with this one through YouTube, but then I was like, I don't want to really just do it without talking to you ahead of time. But
No problem. No, we can. No, we can. As much as you're willing to talk, I'm happy to.
yeah,
Happy to.
no, because yeah, the live ones are sweet because then there's no editing when we're done. I just see you later.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Whereas these ones, because
Exactly.
like I say dumb shit, and then I got to go through and cut it out, and
Fair enough.
I try to pay attention. But yeah, it's been awesome talking to you. We'll touch base.
Absolutely.
I'll give you a call Monday, and like I said, we'll nail down a day with
Perfect.
your brother. I'm pumped. This is
Yeah.
a blast.
No, it would be fun to do together. My parents would get a kick out of it too, I think.
Awesome.
All right. Great talking to you. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Same here. Thanks, Mike.